infected with Ebola or anything? Okay.
Not yet.
I'm going to be breathing through the Ebola screen.
He's going next week, actually. I thought he was going last week, but it's this week. Next week, whatever. All right. Here
Going
to Texas.
Oh.
To the epicenter.
I didn't know.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I'll keep that in mind.
I know. I'm going to sanitize heavily.
You have the little plastic wraps over each.
I'm just going to make him come in here in a hazmat suit. Oh, Lordy. All right, here we go. Everybody ready?
From the Time Spent Poorly podcast studio in the Lewiston Clarkson Valley in Idaho, you're listening to the Rosewater Kinetics Fitness Hour with weekly discussions on nutrition.
Mainly consist on stuff like sandwiches and tins of tuna, chicken, something like that, cheese grater's from a chain store.
Training.
Just like a bunch of little girls. Again.
Also including phone interviews.
Hello, everyone. I'm from your telephone company.
Poignant conversation. And international liaisons.
Oh my.
And here are your hosts, Mike and Nathan.
Welcome everyone to the whatever this is hour. I almost started saying a different show name, sorry.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Rosewater Kinetic Fitness Hour, everyone.
And which is being done at an unusual hour.
Yeah, this is
week.
not a normal hour for us. This is 7 p.m. on a Thursday. We're usually talking to you at noon or 1 on a Friday
And
after we've gorged ourselves.
The reason for that is this is a special show because we have Mr. Paul Wolkowinski.
Wolkowinski.
So sorry about
so
that.
close. So close.
Bounced. The gentleman who is responsible is the, I guess, Indian Club World Tour
champion?
I guess.
Sure.
I know I've heard him referred to as many things.
Can we
The
call
King
him-
of Clubs.
Can we call him Champ? I want to call him Champ
Well,
the
you'll
whole
have to
time.
ask him if he
All
wants
right.
to be called champ or not. I don't know.
All right.
But anyways, this is a guy that I believe to be one of the foremost authorities on technique.
Yeah, Paul and Paul. The two Pauls are.
Yeah, that's two Pauls
Yep.
now. And it's my understanding that he has forwarded some video.
Yeah, which I have.
Which we could probably use for instructional. You all are going to want to listen into this one. The reason I say that is it's no secret that everybody's thirsty. The whole club community is thirsty out there for knowledge that just generally isn't available. Well, this is a man who's committed himself, in my view, to collecting that and
putting it all in one spot.
Yeah, man. I've watched his instructionals on YouTube.
Yeah, me too.
I've had a little liaison with him via the internet.
Before I even knew who he was or what I was even really doing out in my shop, I was still learning different shapes and what things were called and whatnot, and I went on the YouTubes and looked up Indian Swinging Club just to figure out what the heck I was supposed to be doing with it, and some of the first videos I landed upon were him before I knew it was him. Yep. I was just like, oh, there's a dude that can do it.
I've even had a few times have him identify some unusual clubs for me, so I knew
what you're looking at.
Well, yeah, a customer would come up and say, can you make these? Whoa, I've never really seen that before. So I'd send a picture of Paul. Paul, can you identify these? And he has.
Yeah.
Cool. So therefore, I arrive at the
foremost
opinion that, that he's probably the most knowledgeable guy I've ever had anything to do with as far as Indian clubs goes. Now, Gada, Persian heels, Jory,
all that stuff. Yeah,
the gauntlet of circular training. Sure. I guess you could say. Well, why don't we see if we can get him on the hook here and quit wasting time?
Yeah,
and,
we'll get him up on here on the phone and
let's use the clock with Paul.
Yeah, while we get this rolling here, you can find all of our shows at timespentpoorly.com. You can find Mike at RK Clubs. You can find me at Nathan L. Betts. Find us on Stitcher. Find us on various different ways of going about getting us. There's lots of different ways. And I always like to hear the ringtones of other countries. Hello, Paul. This is Nathan and Mike. How are you doing this evening?
Hello, Paul.
This morning, I guess it would be for you.
Yeah, good.
Excellent. So we were just giving you a little bit of a talk up what we know about you a little bit. So this is Paul Walkowinski, and we would like to formally introduce you to our audience and everything like that. And why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of your background, Paul?
Yeah, well, my background started basically about 7-8 years ago when I got told to get my finger out and lose some weight and get into shape, basically. And my dad was half Russian, half Polish, and I remembered him talking about kettlebells when I was a kid. And I just chanced on kettlebells to start off with, and I loved the swinging action of it. And then one thing led to another, and I found club bells on the internet, and then found the old books that I've been following ever since. With Indian clubs, and basically, over the years I've got fitter and fitter, and just love the sort of circular motion of club swinging. And I still, funnily enough, do kettlebells just for strength work, because I find that they really help with the heavier clubs. And I basically split my week up sort of 50-50, swinging Indian clubs, and then doing the heavy meals and jewelry from India, and also the mace swing a lot. So that gives me a sort of a nice sort of variety of movements, and gets me going and keeps me fit.
That's fantastic. I've only been able to do this for about the last 2 years, so you got quite a bit of head start on both Mike and I here. So how did you transition for something that you decided you wanted to, you took an interest into becoming pretty much the foremost leading expert in the subject? How did you arrive there? And
well, that's a really funny question. Well, no, it's not a funny question. I mean, it's a strange question in a way, because until I did my first world tour in 2013, which was totally intended to sort of go out and meet people that I'd met on the internet, and people like Izzy Barish, for example. I always liked the way that he approached club swinging, so I wanted to go see him, meet with him, and sort of share ideas and stuff. And during the tour, I started realizing that being sort of cocooned in West Australia has given me a sort of I'm by myself, and all I basically do is study the old books, and it wasn't really an intention to become knowledgeable. Well, I wanted to become knowledgeable about it for my own reasons, but I didn't realize that I was going to be in a situation where sort of a lot of people are leaning on me for the information.
Well, that is kind of where you landed, though, Paul, because, I speak with people all the time that say, well, we look at Paul's videos and instructionals on YouTube, and it seems to me that you have become whom people pretty much around the world look to for this. In fact, I'm in pretty regular contact with a gentleman named David McIntosh, who's also there in Australia, and
yes.
I forward some items to him from time to time, and mostly they're the old publications, old time strongmans and stuff like this. And we had a discussion just day before yesterday, and my suggestion was you should get with Paul, and maybe you guys could come up with a publication that kind of summarizes what everybody is literally trying to gather together, because it's my opinion that this would be a much wider spread means of fitness if there was more knowledge to be had out there. It's just it's almost an empty well, it seems.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's something that I'm actually sort of like starting to think about in a sort of in a definite direction that I'm going to take, because this year's tour was very interesting, because I actually did some training courses in Denmark, in Finland, and then in Poland this year, and I found that people were very receptive to the way that I showed them stuff. So I mean, it's something that I'm actually thinking about sort of elaborating on and building on in the sense of video.
Man, that would be fantastic. Now, do you find having be so traveled in this particular subject matter, Do you find from one country to another that the techniques vary greatly, maybe a little bit? I mean, is it a, as if the methods of a game that someone would play is all pretty much played the same no matter where you go. But this, I hear people, I hesitate to use the word argue, but tend to disagree on methodology.
Sorry, I missed that last section, so that last sentence.
I said people tend to disagree on the method of the correct means of club exercise from one country to another, as if, well, no, it should be done this way. No, we do it this way here. Do you find that to be true, having traveled around?
Well, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that a lot of the disagreement comes from the club bell camp, if you like. With the heavy steel club bells. And there's some of the because people seem to not be able to draw the line between what a club bell is and what an Indian club is. So therefore some of the teachings of club bells are getting morphed into Indian club work, and that's actually completely wrong, and the two shouldn't be mixed up because they're different techniques. As far as countries go, I've found that the people in most countries who swing Indian clubs do follow roughly the sort of all the movements, like the inward and outward heart shapes, the parallel swings, and all this sort of thing, fairly consistently. But I think that the club bell thing kind of undercuts it a little bit, and people just can't seem to get it into their heads that they're actually two very different things. And I think that the originators of club bells basically kind of blurred the lines there a bit, and we need to clear that up.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's almost like they're trying to make a hybrid of some sort, and it seems to me that where a lot of the knowledge is missing with people is they have the common belief that, well, if I use something heavier, well, then I'm going to get a greater result faster.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, funnily enough, I had a very good experience of that in Poland, where we had some trainers basically refused to come to the Indian club workshop because they asked what the weights of the clubs were, and we had 1 kilo clubs for the workshop. And the immediate reaction was, well, no, we're not coming because we don't think that's worth looking at. And we actually managed to persuade them to come and just join in, and they went away very surprised.
That seems to be a common theme. I talk with people quite often, actually, and convince them, and they never want to get involved initially, but their curiosity always sees to weigh on them, and after a while they'll come and say, hey, why don't you show me what this is about, and once they, you hand them a set of light clubs, and they kind of look at you with that squinted look,
inquisitive look,
and you go through a few things, and they realize, hey, it's not easy to just starting, to get your coordination and to have the right form and all of this.
It's difficult for sure.
But then normally by the next morning when they're waking up and they're going, oh, ow, man, my shoulders, my elbows, my wrists.
Sore.
That's right.
They're going, wow, I had no idea that it was having that degree of an impact, and they're always surprised.
Yes, no, I totally agree. So I mean, but the thing is, I mean, at least the positive thing was that these guys are prepared to look at it, because it's becoming more and more prominent and more popular. So I mean, it's definitely moving in the right direction to sort of spread around. More people getting involved in it.
Yeah. Now, see, tell me if you agree with this, Paul. I tend to tell people, I say, go ahead and do your linear training and your strength training. That's all fine. But if you're going to go out and do stuff, if you're going to go climb rocks, if you're going to go hunting, backpacking, these kind of things, you're going to want to swing these clubs, because these are going to give you range of movement. These are going to give you coordination. These are going to give you eye-to-hand coordination.
Yes.
You can't get that from linear training.
Yeah, there's that static, just pump up, down, repeat, that whole that whole thing doesn't really do that much. It's just this static thing.
And I will say
It
this.
doesn't take much coordination.
I have
at all.
never had an individual that I've showed this to that took it seriously who has ever said
Yeah.
it wasn't working for them.
Yeah.
Never.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the coordination, that's something that fascinates me and never stops fascinating me. I mean, just to give you an example, during the week, I'll I sort of like go, heavy day, light day, heavy day, light day. So I'm in 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And Saturday basically is my experimental day with Indian clubs. And I'll basically just literally put some music on or some drumming. Basically drumming, as you probably know, I'm sort of like totally into after being to Iran. And I just swing clubs and analyze my mistakes, and if I do something or the clubs seem to want to do something, I try to follow it through. I use a mirror for that so that I can see basically what I'm doing and come up with sort of complex combinations of movements and stuff. And I always walk out on Saturday mornings, and sometimes it can last as long as 2 hours, and I've been swinging basically completely non-stop. And it's just a sort of, it's like a fascination run. It just like, one thing leads to another, to another, to another. So it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'll get started sometimes, and okay, well, that's the end of my regiment, and I'll sit down to rest up, and then once I'm rested up, it's like, well, let me try this.
Guess I could go for another 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
Now, you just said that you made it over to Iran on your last tour. What did you feel like the reception was over there, and what did you learn in Iran?
Well, the Iran journey was really quite amazing. I just didn't know what to expect there. I mean, it was, having been to India, I've been into India twice, so I'm going to go back a little bit. Last year in 2013 and now in 2014 went to India and sort of kind of got conditioned into the sort of the lifestyle that they've got over there and so on. And I mistakenly considered that probably Iran would be something similar. And I arrived there, and it was one of the cleanest places I've ever been to. That was the sort of first impression that I had. Then obviously started going into Zurkhaneh and watching basically, I didn't really want to take part at because I just wanted to sort of watch and video them because I find if I video something like that, I can learn a lot from it by re-watching it. And they're the nicest, most friendly people that I had the pleasure to meet. They were just completely amazing. Welcome with open arms. I had a guide and a translator whose English was very good, thankfully. So, I could ask them various things about their club swinging in particular. It interested me as to why they would do certain movements and so on, and everything was answered, without fail. They had reasons for, doing this or doing that. And, it's something that I would seriously consider, or in fact, I am considering going back next year, but just going to one city and spending, maybe 2 weeks literally just taking part in the Zurkhaneh training that they do to just literally learn and feel more of it.
Wow.
If you like.
That's exciting. Now, you had sent us a few videos, and Nathan has them queued up here. I haven't had a chance to take a look at them yet. Did you have any of these of your trip?
I've got videos of the trip, but unfortunately, I don't want to upset anybody saying this, but the internet in Iran is censored. I don't know if you know that. And so you can't get Facebook, you can't get YouTube, and so on. So I kind of lost my momentum after India with making videos. And besides that, my tour in Iran also sort of included a lot of historical stuff and cities and so on. So, to answer your question, yes, I have got videos, but I literally haven't had the chance to sort of put them up yet because I need to, in some cases, I might have to take 2 hours of Zurkhaneh filmed, but that's way too long for something like YouTube, so I need to sort of, edit that out and pull it into a sort of like a short 10-minute video. And I've rewatched some of the videos, and to my surprise, then I've started noticing, you watch these guys turning clubs in the pit, and then you'll see the guy to the left, let's say, he's starting to do sort of inward swings that are basically with the meal going right down to the ground and back up again, whilst the other one's turning behind his back. So, I mean, they're doing movements that are similar to an inward alternating swing in Indian clubs. And then another guy, for instance, then in the same video, I noticed that another guy in the other corner is doing something else, and he's casting the meals behind his shoulder, and then he's holding the meal out in front of him at shoulder level, instead of having it down by his waist. So, there's these little sort of intricacies that I'm finding that I didn't even spot when I was there. And there's something that I've just got to really work on and learn the techniques myself and then pull them out and make them into videos. So there's quite a bit of work there to just present that, really.
Well, that's fair enough.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, curiosity drove the question because I knew you were over there, and I did see on the Facebook that you had tidbits to entice us
Yes.
from day to day on there, and I was kind of following you there, seeing what was going on, and I was just curious if there was anything more lengthy, more in depth coming out.
No, there will be sure hopefully in the next few weeks, because I've actually just finished, believe it or not, I've been back 2 months and I've just finished sorting out and cataloguing the little sequence of all the videos, and now I'll start pulling bits out and putting them up as I go through them.
Well,
so that's definitely on its way.
So let me ask you this question, Paul. Now, in your travels and even where you are at home there, when you're with other individuals that you're either teaching or they're watching you and learning and stuff, is there any one mistake that seems to be more common to everyone than anything else?
Yeah, I think, funnily enough, Paul Imada actually sort of nailed it on the head when he was talking when you interviewed him about the core and the stretching of the arms up towards the ceiling. Basically, that's so important, and taking that big breath in and opening the chest up. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make, and they kind of swing the clubs like Paul did. Because Paul demonstrated both methods in his videos, and that is the most common mistake that I see people make, is that they don't get that elevation above the head. And just to sort of go on that a little bit more, when you're doing, for instance, a heart shape, be it inward or outward, the arm should come up at about 45 degrees out towards the sky. When you're doing alternating swings, the same inward and outward again, the arm should rise to about 60 degrees. So it's an even higher elevation, because there's one club at the back, and the front club is then there's no chance of it hitting the other one. So, I mean, the elevation can be even higher, and it's, opens you up even more. And that's the main problem that people have, is that they get lazy, and this is the sort of conflict that club belts have created, because the club work is all just over the shoulder, so the club jumps just over the shoulder and then it's thrown out to the side, and they haven't got that the upper element of the circle there.
Yeah, I agree. I was guilty of that as well. I remember after speaking with Paul, I've adjusted.
I have too, yeah.
And that definitely makes a huge difference when you practice it throughout your routine.
Yeah, definitely.
It's amazing how much of a difference that makes.
I actually found that when I was doing it the wrong way, I would do a certain amount of reps, and then once I was corrected by Paul and I started implementing that into my routine, I actually ended up fatiguing about 20 or 30 reps sooner, because I was doing it correctly and I was doing it wrong beforehand. So I don't know if that means that I was doing more with less, or if I was just doing it incorrectly and that means that I was able to do more. So either way, I've been able to correct that for myself too.
Yeah, no, it's because it's because you were doing it incorrectly. You were doing more. No, that's absolutely dead right. Because basically, you're not getting that. You're not having to. You're not adding that extra effort to push the club up into the air.
Right.
So and which is basically quite taxing. Physically, it's quite taxing, and especially when you first start doing it. It's surprisingly, demanding to do.
Quite. Yes.
Yeah. I agree.
But just one other thing that I'll mention here, for example, if one exercise that I've actually started doing, because I've for my workshops, I try to break down and analyze every single circle that I sort of consider, part of Indian club swinging. And one of the most important circles that you can do, and it's surprisingly challenging, is a full arm circle. And what I mean by that is it's a straight arm circle at the front, so you're standing with your hips and shoulders facing forward, and you lift the club up above your head, so it's a single club to start with, and you drop it to the outside of the body, then swing it across the body with a straight arm, and you have to turn your shoulders slightly to accommodate the swing, and swing it around. Basically, it's in a continuous motion. So your grip basically has to go from a hammer grip to a saber grip. So it's like you're holding the club out all the time. And you swing that around, do about 15 circuits of that. And I mean, that's really a very good indication of, A, achieving the elevation that you want. And the swing itself is, it's sort of, you swing through and through time after time, and then basically it's, again, taxing to do, because, you're having to pull out and you're breathing in as you're going up and breathing down and out as you go down. So it's a very good exercise to do.
That sounds like trying to perfect that could make for a pretty sore shoulder.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Now,
so all the other circles. There's about sort of 5 main circles that you do, but that's for another major discussion when we get around to it. I'll finalize them all in the next few weeks, and then we'll have to talk about it again.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that. Now, let's take a look at some of these videos that we have here that you forwarded, because I know everybody wants to see these.
Yeah, do you just want to set them up and knock them down there, Paul? Do you just want to go right in order with number 1 here, intro routine?
So, you're going to watch number 1 first, are you?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so basically number 1 is, it was just a little bit of an ad-lib, just for sort of today's benefit, basically, of putting together a few, just a few movements. I'll just get that up on my computer so that I can see it too. So you ready to roll now, are you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you want me to talk about it whilst we're on?
Yeah, if you want to do that.
Certainly.
Yeah, definitely. I can turn the music, or I can turn the volume down on this just a pinch, and then you can talk over the top of your own self.
Okay, so are you running now?
I am at 0-0 right now, ready to push play.
Okay.
All right, so play in 3, 2, 1, here we go.
So basically they're starting off with parallels, and then reverse, again, and then that's a forward roll, back circles, and yeah, I'll just catch that one again. So that's a forward roll, reverse roll.
Oh, crap.
Those are arm rolls that were basically I've discovered from Tom Burrow's book. We can talk about those in a minute. That type of thing over the head is amazingly good for your wrists, basically, and forearm work.
That looks incredibly difficult.
Actually, yeah, it's not too bad. Now here I'm going to basically start doing the head roll, forward roll, and then back, reverse rolls, and then doubling up on everything. That's it. Doubles. and that's a reverse again. So I mean, basically the parallel reverse just reverses it, so it's like the yin and yang. You do it to the right and the left.
Okay.
You know, I got to try this now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm gonna sit here and study this one video for 4 hours.
So if you text and I don't answer, that means I've knocked myself out and I'm on the...
And I'll come. Yeah.
I've had a few headbangs, believe me.
Oh my God, I've given myself a couple goose eggs so far.
So these are alternating figure of eights. And then those are basically... Okay, I've just missed that one.
Well, that was an interesting move.
Back and forward circle, side circle on straight arms.
Wow.
Well, it's like you change direction
in the middle of your swing.
Those are called reels, and this is a reverse reel.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
That's amazing.
That
stuff,
was
Paul.
I'm gonna break that one down like game film for probably 3 weeks trying to figure out everything you just did in that one video.
Yeah.
That one's really impressive. Nicely done. Nicely done.
So that was just basically a bit of visualization, especially for today. So I mean, I just, one of the things that I really like about Indian clubs, and I discovered it, I think that's one of the things that sort of motivated me about swinging Indian clubs, is the fact that you can join movements together. And that video basically displays the fact that you can swing to the left, to the right, and you can change over non-stop. And that's been one of my absolute loves and fascinations about the sport in the first place, because for instance, those rolls around the body, basically it's all to do with timing, and those rolls is another circle that, like we're talking about the full arm circle, that's a combination of circles 3 and 4, which is one circle, one arm is reaching across the body and the other one's to the side. So, and that's basically, you learn how to do those circles, and then you can put the two together to create that sort of effect.
Yeah, that's amazing stuff, Paul. I've been at this for, we're probably approaching about 3 years now, but I am not nearly as agile as that.
I think I've got about 6 moves, not 68.
So what do we have next on the queue here?
We've got one called correct club length is next for me.
Yeah, no, okay. So the correct club length is basically me talking about, we can play the video and then we can maybe talk about it later, because I'm talking about basically working out the correct club length and selecting the correct club length for using for swinging Indian clubs, because I've discovered that for instance the polypropylene club, which you'll see me I think that's in the third video, is a short 18-inch club. I think we should run the video first and then we can talk about it afterwards, maybe.
All right, sounds
let's do
good.
That.
We'll do that right now.
Okay.
Hopefully you can. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear this or not, Paul.
Hi, I wanted to talk about the correct length of an Indian club. This club is actually 22 inches long, and it's from my body shape and my arm length, it's the correct weight. The way to check if a club is correct is to hold the club out like this, third finger just above the button, little finger or pinky on the button itself, and a hammer grip like this. Basically, then you have to release the 3 fingers here and allow the club to lay down on your arm, and the club should reach your deltoid here, the bottom of the deltoid. Now, there's some very good reasons for this. The main reasons are that when you do heart shapes together, when the clubs come round to the back, they will not probably hit each other. We'll just grab the other club to show you. So when they come through here, in that position there, they're not going to hit each other. If I take a longer club, which is this one here, this is an exceptionally long club, it's a 26-inch club. You can see that I have to keep my arms fairly long way out, because otherwise I'm going to get these too knocking at the back. They can still be swung, but I'm going to have to work much further out to the sides.
Alrighty.
Yes, I mean, that sort of gives you a sort of, that's something that I was made aware of first, one of my first videos on YouTube, and Mike Simpson from the Sheffield Club Swingers website commented about me knocking my clubs together, and I was actually using those clubs at the end of that video for my little performance. And ever since he told me that, I've been sort of looking at what is the correct length and how, trying to work it out. And if you've got the video still open, on the right-hand side on the last frame of the video, you can see a series of clubs standing there that go from sort of fairly tall to smaller and smaller. Can you see that?
Yes. On the right-hand side? Yes.
On the right-hand side, yeah. And so basically, I mean, those clubs, the tallest one there is 26 inches, 26, and then it drops down to 24, 23, and then 2 times 22. And it's, the 22s for my arm length are basically an ideal club, and I can swing them and do various things that, for instance, I can't do with a 24-inch club. So I just think that it would be interesting for people to know that, especially if some people might be buying clubs from eBay, others buying newly made clubs and stuff. And it's definitely something that's worth considering is a club the right length for my personal, arm length, if you like.
Yeah, that is a good rule of thumb to go by. That's a very valuable video.
Yeah, another thing I did not know. I just thought we were making them to fit the weight into them is what we were. From an engineering standpoint, to get the weight in there, you got to get them longer to make them heavier.
And being a maker, you ask the person buying them, how long do you want your clubs to be?
What do you want them to be? Yeah. And they probably don't know, so they just probably take a wild stab.
Well, now we can make the suggestion.
Yes, exactly.
Right, okay, so now if you go to the next video, basically, which is number 3,
yes,
let's have a look at that one, because that one kind of carries on from what we've just seen here, but there's a little bit more there about it.
Okay, here we go with here we go with the third video, still talking about length and weight distribution this time. Here we go.
Just one more thing on club length. This is a polypropylene club, 18 inches long. This is the club that I've just demonstrated, which is 22 inches long. Now, basically, and these both weigh, by the way, both weigh 2 pounds, so both 2-pound clubs. Now, the main difference between this is, if I lay this, you can see that it's coming halfway up my biceps, and this one is coming up to the bottom of my deltoid. What's the difference? The difference is that the weight is further away from my wrist in the this pine club, and the black club, the polypropylene one, it's closer to my wrist. So therefore the resistance as I swing it through is less with this one, and it's much greater with this one because the weight is removed from my wrist. Now there's another thing here which I'm just going to demonstrate. If I hold the 2 clubs together, and we consider the circle that they're going to make, if you think about it, the shorter club is going to make a smaller circle, so therefore it's going to turn more slowly. I'll try and hold them together so you can imagine I'm turning them in a circle, and the smaller club is actually drawing a smaller circle, so it's actually revolving slower than the bigger club. So the bigger club again, the weight is further away from my wrist, more resistance, shorter club, less resistance. There's nothing wrong with it, but basically it's something that needs to be understood. Okay.
Alrighty.
So I just think it's a sort of very valuable sort of bit of information, and it just highlights how important it is to choose the right length of club for individually.
Yeah. Velocity.
Yeah, basically. And as makers, that's one thing that we have just not been suggesting at all. We just ask them, what length do you want them? Not what length do you think you need, and not asking them what's your height or anything like that, or hey, send us your go to a tailor for us and tell us what your sleeve length is or something like that, so we can get an idea of what's supposed to be a correct size for them.
Suggest that they watch Paul's video.
Yeah. We'll just tell them, hey, go check this out. We'll give ourselves a shameless plug. Go check out this video and tell us what you think.
Sorry?
Oh, I was just gonna say we can tell our customers now. Go watch our video on our website, and then we can get like a little bit of a twofer going on, so you can promote yourself, and then we're still getting information that we need while we build their clubs for them. So. Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just because I mean, I couldn't. I've had to. I mean, this also. I started looking at this because of the comments that I had for knocking my together behind my head.
Yeah.
But then it sort of, I got totally fascinated by the variety, and I made after making the 26-inch clubs, I made 24s next. And I couldn't believe the difference of how they swung and how they handled and so on. So, then it's basically been, I mean, I've got, what is it now, 7 versions of clubs that I've made purely to study the different length effects on.
Now,
so I think it's very interesting. And I think, it's rather than... when people come in, jumping back a little bit and talking about, I first started club swinging and I thought, I'll get heavier clubs and I'll get stronger and I'll swing heavier and heavier clubs. The interesting thing is that, if you get your club length right, you can still find, amazing resistance in a 2-pounder. And if you then go to a 3-pound club, the increase in resistance is amazing, as long as the club length is right.
I can actually say a little bit about that. I was trying to decide what I wanted to make for my first club, and I made something that was we call them a pendulum shape. I'm not really exactly sure what those would be technically called.
Teardrop
So I ended up making a teardrop one for my first set of clubs. They came out to 2.5 pounds, and I can tell you that just based off of how long those things are, they swing just perfectly to where if I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing, I'll hear them knock behind my head every once in a while. But if I'm actually focused on what I'm doing, they just miss each other, because I always watch myself in a mirror. They just miss each other. And of all the clubs that I have for myself, those ones still provide the most amount of resistance. I still find that those ones are actually the hardest for me to still swing, even after having swung them for over 2 years now. They're still the ones that provide me with the correct amount of resistance that I'm looking for when I'm trying to swing something that's lighter than my 1-pound warm-ups.
Yeah. No, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I also think it's very important. I mean, there's different people have different favorites, club favorites. I've just had Barry Hutchings from the UK over here. I mean, we just were sharing ideas about club swinging, and he's got a pair of clubs that he loves that his grandfather, originally his grandfather's.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're a sort of different shape to the ones that I've got here. But I mean, and I think it's a very personal thing too. I mean, some of us like silk and others like wool. I mean, it's as different as that too. So everybody's got a favorite that they're going to lean back on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's kind of interesting that people think that they're going to order themselves a club, which I've never understood, but they're going to order themselves a club or a pair of clubs, and that's going to be it. They're done, which I don't think that's ever going to be. I know a lot of people also that, for example, David McIntosh, who's ordered probably 12 sets from us now. We're starting to see more and more people that are the repeat customer, that they come back and are like, well, now we need this. Well, now I need this. Well, now I need this. And that's great for us because, it keeps us in business. But more importantly, it shows that people are understanding how they're supposed to be worked and how they're supposed to be used.
Well, I think a lot of it too is they're progressing, and they're starting to realize different things that they can accomplish.
And now they're like, oh, well, I need this.
And,
So
No, that's really important. I mean, as long as and people will be finding, there'll be different handling properties to different clubs. That's for sure.
yeah, I do the same thing.
I
It's,
have too,
You
yeah.
know, and especially like watching some of Paul's videos or someone else's. Even it's what are they doing there?
Yeah.
You know, what you know. So first thing I do is I go out and I start making myself a set of those.
Right. Right.
To try
Sure.
to mimic, you know, of course, I think that's just being human and being curious.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So if you want to go, we'll go on to video number 4 now.
Okay. Well,
This is about the weight and handles. It's it's just less than a minute, but it's just to have a look at that now and just talking about weights and shapes.
okay. Here we go on that one.
Just something a little bit more about now that we've started talking about weights at clubs, I just wanted to add that for really good Indian club swinging, for men the weight should be around about 2 pounds, for ladies it should be about a pound, which is basically 1 kilo and half a kilo. About 100 years ago, those were the weights that were used, and in my experience, those are very, very good weights for club swinging. The other thing I wanted to just mention very quickly is that with every Indian club should basically have a tapering handle. And this basically is a very good example of that. So you can see it's narrower here by the knob, and then it goes wider towards the belly of the club. This is really important, and you can see it against the white background.
Okay, so I mean, basically that's a sort of precursor to the next video where I'm having a look at the ergonomic the club handle, and we could I mean, if there's anything that you want to talk about here regarding the shape, and now what I will say is that the tapering handle there's a very good reason for it, and the reason is that it forces the club to slip in your hand, so that basically the knob of the club is caught by your third finger. And I mean, I always call the third finger the anchor finger, because that means that when that knob goes against the third finger, the club's actually not going to slide out or fly out of your hand. And the tapering basically enhances that.
Okay, that actually makes perfect sense. It actually kind of like sinks it into your hand, so to speak, right?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. So now, I mean, just sort of if we could lead on to video number 5.
Okay.
We'll have a look at the ergonomic handle.
Okay.
And this is I'll say this. I'll add that this is my point of view, but I mean I will be interested to see what you guys think about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Now the next thing that I'd like to talk about is the ergonomic handle. I mean, you can see that this club's got quite a specifically designed handle with a narrow section, slightly wider section, and a narrow section, and it's got a hilt to it like a sword has. Now, there is a misconception here that this is purely for ergonomics. That's totally wrong. The reason for having these type of handles is that during club swinging you can shorten the circle that a club makes, and you can lengthen the club also. So shortening a club, for instance, if I make a circle from here, holding the club in that position, the circle's small. Small circle. If I lengthen the club by holding it by the ball, it's a long circle. Long circle. Small. Long. Small. Long. Small. Long. So you can see that the lengthening the club and shortening the club. So, I mean, those two circles that I've just shown you there is one version of it. For instance, if you do a circle, you can do a circle from to the back and then to the front. So I'm holding the club here just by the ball itself, making the club very long, and at the back I'm shortening it slightly, so I'm going up halfway up the handle. In this particular case, for some movements, you move your hand completely down here, for instance, and in a movement that would come up to here I want to do a small circle. So there's different places for different circles, and you're also adjusting the speed of the club by lengthening and shortening the handle. So that's what an ergonomic, or this handle, which was basically developed by Cindy Keyhole in his days, that's what this is for. Ergonomics is completely secondary. This is for turning the club through.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there. With the addition of when one begins to pick up the RPMs to swing faster,
Yes.
I find that I call it the saddle right before the pummel in there. When I make a club, I make that a little bit deeper because when I swing, if I want to get more resistance, like get a bigger bang towards the end of the workout, I'll pick up my RPMs. I'll swing it faster, and I find that my hand falls perfectly into place right there, and my index finger and the finger next to that will fall right on top of that center ball in that ergonomic handle, and it gives a very, very high degree of control.
It's absolutely, yeah.
And it feels good on the hand too, which is always nice.
No, well, it does feel very good on the hand. Yeah, so I've actually that club is I've just rehashed the design of that, and I'm bringing basically the ball and the thickening of the handle just slightly closer together, and I'm adjusting it by literally about a centimeter because I think that's actually going to give a faster. I was showing those small circles and jumping from one to the other. And that jump will be better done if the ball and that thickening is just slightly marginally closer together.
I have a question for you, Paul. Now, a lot of the old SIB-DKOA clubs have a very, very, very small handle, a very, very small diameter of a handle. And I also find that quite comfortable, too. That also has a very small pummel on the end. Do you like to swing those as well?
Well, I've swung Cindy Keyhoes. I mean, I've swung some of the original clubs, which I'm very fortunate to be able to do, and I did like them. Yes, I mean, it's a very nice club, and I mean, the designs that I've been playing around with are basically. The handle is basically from Keyhole, but the club body is from the Cobb and Jenkins book, club number 1, because I just personally like a narrower body as opposed to a fatter bodied club. So the narrow handles, I mean, I do like them because at the end of the day, when you're doing a lot of manipulation, the thicker the handle gets, the harder the manipulation becomes, and it's almost to the point of impossible. And funnily enough, in the next videos we'll look at, I'm starting to talk about the meals and sort of like heavier, and we'll look at a thicker handle there, and I think that is it's almost if the handle's too thick on an Indian club, it's a restriction. You cannot do a lot of movement if the handle's too thick. If it's thinner, then the flexibility is much greater.
Yeah, I agree. You can do a lot more with it, and I also agree too, because the clubs that I use in the morning with my daily regiment have, while they are an ergonomic handle, I have a very small pummel on there. But I can do a lot with them, but like Paul has pointed out, my hands and wrists begin to tire faster than the rest of, like, my elbows, shoulders, and
knees and toes.
Knees and toes. And while that's a good thing sometimes when you're trying, like if you want to work on your grip and your forearms and stuff like that, it's a good. But when you're trying to make it through,
right, and you're trying to make
your regimen, because you got 10 minutes till you got to go on your walk, and you know what I mean. It can be a bit trying.
Yeah, no. Well, the thing is, I think if that's, I mean, that happens to me too. I mean, I can swing for about 3/4 of an hour to an hour some days, and then suddenly I'm starting to feel that my grip's disappearing.
Yeah.
I just literally then pick up either the mace or a pair of lighter meals, and I'll do something else for a bit, and then my arms recover pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually got requested to make a set of clubs that had a 1.75 inch diameter handle, and I gave them a test run and set them immediately back down and said, "That's for that dude. I would never make anything like that for myself." But it was based off of a specific design that was good for doing shoulder work and whatnot. So.
Sure, but even I mean, it's. I'll be very interested to see what you think about the things I've got to say in the up and coming videos now, because I personally sort of had a bit of a shock when because I brought some meals back from Iran to have here, and I compared them to some meals that were made in England as copies from original meals, and the modifications on the handles were a bit of a surprise. I mean, I think a handle is not necessarily, in my opinion, the right way to go now, as opposed to what I would have thought. Well, if you'd have asked me that 6 months ago, I'd have said, go for a thicker handle. But now I've completely changed my mind.
Okay, so here's video number 6, and this one's just entitled "Heavy Clubs."
Yeah.
And,
so basically, that's just an intro. That's a quick intro into heavy clubs. So if we start that now.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, now I'm going to do a bit of a review on heavy clubs, and we'll start with the ones in the middle. These are jewelry, basically copied from clubs that I've seen in India. These are traditional Persian meals from Iran, and these are made to patterns from a book written in 1905 by Cobbett and Jenkins. Now, why have I got these 3 pairs of clubs in front of me? Because I've found that with experience that there are massive differences between these clubs. And basically, this is a group here. These are on their own. And to my mind, these clubs were basically modified and shortened by people like Cobbett and Jenkins in the early 1900s. And modified for Western use from these very long Indian clubs. And I'm going to give you some examples, but the most important thing is that the technique for the long jewelry is a slip and slide technique, so the club slides off the shoulder and then it's pulled back on the shoulder in a sliding action, whereas the meal is lifted and cast at the back and pull to the front without touching the body. So there's a very, very big difference. Now the problem is that when these shorter Cobbett and Jenkins clubs were developed, there's been a bit of a misconception there, and we've all, and myself included, have been trying to use these clubs in the way that these clubs are swung, which is actually, it's okay to do, but it's actually wrong. And I'm going to break that up a little bit more just for your information.
That's something that I had no idea of. I just thought a big club was a big club and a little club was a little club. I didn't realize that there was a whole sliding off your shoulder and pulling it back on. I didn't know that there was any of that going on.
Oh, it's a huge. It's almost mind-bendingly different. And I mean, some of the techniques that I'll show, we'll discuss in the next video, are going to highlight that even more. I think we could almost go on to the next video now, because they kind of continue one to the next, if you like.
Okay.
Number 7.
Yes, we're getting on to number 7. I'm just making sure that everybody can see it here real quick. And all right, here we go with number 7 right now.
Okay.
First thing that I wanted to point out is the fact that the meal has a very tapered handle, so it's quite small, as you and that is makes a massive difference. And I'll be the first to admit that I had no idea about it until I got into the meals, that there will be such a big difference in swinging the clubs.
All right, so we've got the differences going on there. Should we move right along to the next one, or do we need to break anything down you just said?
Yeah, no, I think we should just literally go into the next one, because now it gets interesting, because I'm talking about holding the clubs and the differences.
Okay, all right, here we go with right on to number 8.
Yeah.
So going back to the Hobbit and Jenkins club, on the lift, basically I'm holding it in roughly this position, and I'm going to lift it up now and cast it through. And I can feel that there's a lot of bark going behind my head. With the meal, in total contrast, the club basically pushes over the body and is much closer to me as it swings through. And now I'm going to demonstrate basically holding both the clubs. So with this one, I can hold it lower down. This one is uncomfortable lower down, so I'll have to hold it higher. Now, that gives you two benefits of the meal. That means that the arm that's lifting the meal up is actually doing a higher lift, and this one's doing a shallower lift. So with the meal, you're lifting from here right up to here, whereas this one is a shorter lift, so the arm's working actually less.
Very fascinating. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So, and I think that the most important thing out of that is that because the meal has got a tapered handle and a small button, it seems to. And the traditional way of holding a meal is basically with your little finger or your pinky underneath the button itself. And the club kind of seems to slot into that position almost by itself, if you like. Whereas the parallel handle on the Cobbett and Jenkins club is much more awkward, and because it's parallel, you have to hold the club forward and slightly away from the body, which means, as I was explaining in the video, it means that you're holding it further up, and your forearm is more at right angles to the floor than it is with holding the meal.
So a whole lot more engineering went into those meals.
Yeah, I think it's almost like a time-proven process, if you like. Yeah. The meal is developed over the years, where our forefathers, when they sort of went to India and sort of saw the clubs there, I think my impression is that the clubs that we've been using kind of in the West are more from India, and more the sort of the mix of the military club and the sort of versions of shortened club that the British military came up with, and then Cindy Kehoe got hold of and took over to the States, is more from India than it's not so much influenced by the Persian club.
Yeah.
So if we can go on to the next one, which will be I've just realised I've got two number 8s here.
Oh yeah, I got one called technique differences for number 8, number 2.
So there's the technique differences we need to look at now.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty, here we go. Oh, wait, hold on. I gotta make sure my little screen capture thing. Okay, here we go.
So just to go back to the buttons of the clubs for a few seconds. The variety of these sort of Cobbett and Jenkins clubs, I've got more here. They've got different buttons. This is an exercise club down. It's got a bigger one. Then the next one down again, it's got yet a different button. So there's no particular design method. It's a bit higgledy-piggledy. Whereas with the meals, they're all the same. So no matter what size club you pick up, it's got the same feel in your hand. So I can compare that, for instance, the meal to a competition-style kettlebell, where the handles and the body of the kettlebells are always the same. The same applies to the meals. As they grow in size, the handles really don't change, whereas the handles change and the buttons in the Cobbett and Jenkins ranges, and there's others, basically. They're not the only ones who design these clubs. There are plenty of other clubs, and even modern-day clubs that are being made and there's not really a lot of thought going into the button or the shape of the handle itself. And if you consider now, going back to the Jory, this club really operates much better in the Jory style. So basically, rather than casting here, the club will be slipped off the back and pulled onto the shoulder again here. So which is much more the Jory style, and this is what this club lends itself to. That's why it's got the bulk distribution of weight is different to the meal, because the meal is a casting action. This is a slip sliding action.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, okay. So the final video in this that I've made in this series is just basically swinging all three clubs, including the Jory.
All right, do you want to move right on to that one?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that, and then we can sort of have a chat about the general sort of thought process and all of this afterwards, if you like.
Okay, it sounds good.
To finish it off.
Yep, we'll start up number 9 right now.
Yep.
So just to finish off, I'll do a few swings.
You running?
With a couple
Yep.
of Jenkins.
Okay.
And I'll do some meal swings and then the Jory.
Now I can actually talk to this because I've left. There's no soundtrack here.
Okay.
You can see that with these clubs, I'm having to put my arm, or you might not be able to see it, but I'm actually having to push much further to the back with these clubs because of the bulk of weight on the shoulder of the club. And that's the main difference between the Cobbett and Jenkins club, and now I'm going to do the meals next. Yet. So with the meal can be, it's got a very narrow shoulder to it, so the weight distribution is much further down towards the end of the club, and I can keep my fist basically very close to the back of my shoulder. So I actually think it's a faster swing. And these clubs the meals are the same weight as the Cobbett and Jenkins that you've just seen. So they're both a 7 kilo club.
Okay.
And here you can, my hand is dropping quite a bit nicely down and behind my neck, whereas it was shallower with the Cobbett and Jenkins club because of the parallel handle.
Now, how much extra added weight was does those chains add on to those?
Those I made those out of pine because I just didn't know how I'd get on with the Jory to start off with. So the actual club itself weighs 6.5 kilos. The chain in there adds 2 kilos to each club. So just hang on.
Okay.
And to swing one club, I've got to bring that one forward and drop that one down. And then when I turn, it literally slides off my shoulder and I bring it back to here. Now the clubs at this point change over. That one swings, change over, that one swings. So you can see the style of the Jory is quite different, and I'm not really an expert at it, but I know the differences between them. If you watch some of my videos from India, especially the Jory street competition, you'll see some amazing Jory swinging that's really worth a look at.
Now, those are basically you're making little half circles, or maybe even quarter circles, by just lifting it off your shoulder and swinging your hips around with it, correct?
Yeah, no, it's actually, if you think about it, I mean, if you think about it, let's not talk about the clubs for a minute. If you think about a mace swing, which are 10 to 2, so I mean, you're going from sort of like 10 o'clock on a clock face to 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Basically, as you push the club up off your shoulder, the the end of the club goes up a bit, then it drops down, and then as it kind of goes past the center, your center back point, and then rises on the upside, you're pulling the club up back into its position on the shoulder. So the end of the club again goes into that sort of 2 o'clock position. So I'd say it's more of a 3/4 circle rather than it looks fully extended. The club is about a 1/4 circle yet.
Yeah.
But by the time it's done its whole maneuver, it's actually sort of like a 10-2.
Okay.
And in India, the athletes that compete with the Jory, and as I mentioned that video of the Jory Street competition that I recorded, that's on YouTube, those guys all train with a mace first. So they swing the mace two-handed 10-2s, then they go single-handed, and they work up in weight, and they sort of prepare their shoulders, or they warm their shoulders up before they start swinging Jory. And I mean, my Jory weights are almost pitiful compared to the weights that they use over there, which are sort of 15 kilos upwards per club.
That's heavy.
Going up to the biggest Jory or the heaviest Jory that I saw in India were about 35 kilos each. And where I've got the chains on my clubs, they've actually got sort of pieces of iron that have been secured to the bottom of the club to give extra pull towards the club. And that slip sliding thing that I was talking about for these clubs is because you just literally can't lift the end of the club, so you're actually having to slide it on and off the shoulder. And they in India they use on the shoulders, they have them coated in mustard oil so that the body of the club actually slides over your shoulders fairly easily without ripping your skin.
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, that's better. I have a question, Paul. Now, when swinging the meals, the Persian meals, you use the casting motion over your shoulder, and then you step forward with the same leg. Now, I've tried that, and I find that a little bit harder to do than it appears. What exactly is the purpose? Is that just a traditional method, or is there a specific purpose for that?
No, it is a traditional method, and I'll just try to talk my way through it. So, if we basically, I'm going to talk about the right arm, and the right arm's holding. Obviously both left and right are holding a meal, but to cast the meal behind your back, basically it's an inward cast. It's going across the center line of your body first, and you kind of basically need to clear the path for the club to swing behind you. So obviously the heavier the club, it's going to want to just literally fall over your shoulder down. So you've got to clear out of its way, and what you're going to clear out of its way is your shoulder blades. So if you think about it now, if I'm swinging my right arm, lifting it up, swinging it over my shoulder, the left shoulder wants to come forward. And basically I've got to transfer my body weight onto my left foot. So there's the step. And then my right foot slides up. As then the kneel comes round, it's at the center back, and it comes forward, I need to move my right shoulder forward to give it that movement on the side plane. So even though the club is jumping forwards and backwards over the shoulder, it's still traveling in the side plane. And the movement of the shoulders basically is helping that club come through. The same thing applies to mace swing. You want the trajectory to be in the side plane completely, rather than having with a heavy club. If you try to lock your shoulders and swing the club behind you, you've got to basically move your arm or your elbow and arm away back behind you, which is almost too much for the elbow to handle, to swing the club across. And the chances are that you're going to either hit your shoulder blades or your butt in the process. So, and I mean, in the Zurkhaneh in particular, this is very apparent, but also from watching the guys in India, I mean, they move in it, that last clip of the action with the jury, which is very exaggerated because you're dealing with the overhead length of the clubs. You're still having to turn. With the jury, you have to turn much more. With the meal, it's less. And you're actually stepping from one foot to the other foot, transferring your complete body weight from one side to the other in an effort to allow or to open up a clear path for the club to pass your back.
Makes sense to me. Yeah, I've smacked myself in the butt quite a few times.
Several times, me too.
I actually... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, so there's another really interesting thing that comes into this, which I think is very good for people to know. Is if you think about it, so as we're lifting the club up, doesn't matter whether it's left or right, behind our back, even though we're sort of stepping out of the way of the club, as the club is at the back, as the club is at your back or passing your back, you're arching slightly to the back, so you're flexing to the back. Then when you're in the latter part of the movement, as you're bringing the club forward over your shoulder to the front position, the club then, the further you draw down, the more your back straightens and your shoulders come back to a natural position. And that's really important. And if you have a careful look at some guys on YouTube who swing their clubs, but they come up to their sort of like the nipple level. If they bring the clubs to the nipple level, but not down to the waist, they're actually standing there in a completely, their back never comes out of the arch. Whereas if you purposefully, if you have a careful look the next time you look at a Zurkhaneh video, those guys draw those clubs down to their waist, or to their belly button. And that action itself straightens the back out, and then you're ready for the next flex on the opposite side. So you're not going to get a lower back problem, and it's also working the muscles in your lower back, from a flex to a drawdown. And it's almost like a sort of standing crunch, if you like. So, I mean, you're not doing a full crunch as if you're on the floor, but you're drawing your shoulders forward and pulling the club down in front of you.
Yeah, I agree. I was... Back to the whole stepping forward thing, that had always eluded me, and I tried so hard to perfect that because it was in my mind that, this is a proper method because this has to isolate a certain muscle. It just never occurred to me that it was just as simple as getting out of the way.
Right, you're just moving so you don't smack yourself in the ass.
Yeah, well, that's sort of, I've had to sort of like come up with explanations, and at first I used to sort of really stumble on as to why, and then one day I decided, right, I'm actually going to try and figure this out. What's the purpose? I mean, why is this? Why am I stepping? What's actually happening in that process? And that's that's how I've come up with this theory of it's basically allowing the club to pass. And I mean, I swing the mace also, and I mean basically with the mace it's the same thing. You have to turn your shoulders through a rotation. So from the front plane when you're standing face forward, you've got to turn your shoulders 45 degrees to the left, 45 degrees to the right, all in one swing. And then suddenly it sort of started making sense, and the meals come on into the same category.
Yeah, it all kind of gets back right to the same thing. And I mean, this is good work you're doing, Paul, because there's so many of us out here that just, not to sound ignorant, but that's exactly what it is. We're ignorant in the subject, and everybody's thirsty for the knowledge. And I find it very frustrating because, once again, I think if there was more readily available practical knowledge, that this would be a much, much more widespread form of exercise. And if that was to occur...
Well, it will with time now, because I mean, I've got to the stage where I'm sort of confident enough to start putting things down, and as we've been talking about some of the subjects that we've been talking about during this session now, that I feel that I can actually sort of say this with a little bit of authority that this is actually what's happening.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because I mean, it's no big mystery to anybody about the chronic disease and things that are caused just by inactivity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Poor diet, inactivity. And this is one of the things I think that can get some of the inactive on board, because it's interesting. It's a healthy, active thing to do.
It's fun. I think it's fun.
It's methods that one can accomplish. I mean, you could literally start a collection if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah. And it's challenging. It's always challenging.
But in all of the above, the byproduct is a healthier individual.
Yes, agreed. And I also...
yeah, that's right.
And I also think that while we're trying to do our best to put out all this good information and to get people to go to our website or whatever, I think going to indianclubs.com.au I think is your website, is it not, Paul?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So if you go to indianclubs.com.au, then you can go and he's basically starting to kind of catalog all these different things that you can do with clubs. And I mean, we've watched 9 videos that were only about 2 minutes long, and we've in those 9 videos and then the 5 videos from Paul Imada, and so in 14 videos I've learned more than I've been able to learn by just searching YouTube by typing in Indian clubs. So if you want to give yourself a really good education on what we really need to be doing with these things, go check out what's going on at this website in particular. You're going to find some really good information
and even if
for
you're
yourself.
Just curious.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I wanted to talk about with you, Paul, was the inevitable. Injuries happen. Things come up, and you've moved wrong. You held it wrong. You dropped it wrong. You hurt your shoulder. That's exactly why I'm bringing it up, because I hurt myself. But just because just because I did it doesn't mean that there aren't other people. So, can we address the fact that there are potential there's a potential for injuring yourself, but what can you also do to remedy an injury as well?
Well, okay. I mean, the first thing I'm going to say is that if, as you mentioned earlier on, for instance, my Saturdays are spent basically experimenting and trying new movements out and so on. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I found very early on is if I'm trying to do a new sequence or movement, I'm going to pick up basically a pair of very light clubs. Mm-hmm. And also slow the movement down. It's almost like doing it in slow motion. You know, you just go, you handle yourself through the movement of watching the mirror and slow-mo everything.
Pretend like you're in water, essentially.
I got, when I first discovered how to, or learned how to do the back circle, the throwing and making a circle behind your back, I once sort of swung with my left arm, the club was coming down, and by the time it was at my shoulder level, I just knew that the trajectory of the club was going into my leg instead of behind me.
Oh, no.
And I ended up with a very nasty blood blister that had to be cauterized and so on by a doctor. So, I mean, injuries do happen.
Yes, they do.
The lesson that taught me was, don't be a smart ass and basically slow down. You've got to just slow down. If it's something new, if it's something that you're not sure of, or you're learning a movement, slow motion, and then slowly pick up the speed. And if you start getting into trouble, slow it down again. I mean, nobody's chasing. There's not a competition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll leave that to you.
So, I mean, I've been practicing that for a very long time, and I still do now. I mean, you have to slow everything down and just make sure, and that way you're going to avoid injury. And the other thing that I will say is, I mean, I will say it loud and clear. I have a pair of juggling clubs here that weigh 300 grams each. Ooh, they are about 20 inches in length. But what they're good for is that they're not really good for Indian club exercise, but they're very good for experimenting. So, I would, if I'm not sure of something or something, I can't quite get something right, I'll pick those up and mess around with those until I get it, and then transfer the knowledge to a heavier club. So, avoid injury that way.
Yes, absolutely.
I've got a set of cylindrical 10-pound meals that I've been dabbling in, tossing into the air and trying to catch and twist around with, and I find myself moving out of the way of those
often.
The dogs have even learned to stand back.
So I'd be moving out of the way of those too, so we're flying in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a lot of weight coming at you, and it's all solid. So, okay, obviously avoiding injury is paramount. The unfortunate. So let's just hypothetically, let's say the unfortunate happens in Paul Wakolwinski's world. What's your recommended regimen for nursing something back to health? Or let me put it in a little bit different light. How do you go about restarting your regimen once you realize that you've been injured? What would you recommend doing for restarting your program? Because that's where I'm at right now. I was at a point where I've been...
Shameless play for professional advice.
I sure am, and I'm shameless about it. No, I've been swinging for about 6 to 8 months now, and I had to take about 6 to 8 weeks off because I hurt my left shoulder, and I was trying to figure out how to go about restarting now that I've injured myself. So there's I'm a little bit head shy. I'm a little bit scared of re-injury. In your world, how do you go about nursing something back to health and restarting?
I'd go for a lighter club, as light as possible. 200-300 grams is still going to give you the sensation of swinging clubs and basically get your motor skills back up there.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, like it could be a teardrop club, but a lightweight one, and something that's just going to get you doing the movement. I mean, Paul Imada showed us, a very good exercise just for doing outward movements just with your hands. But I mean, in that sort of situation, I'd encourage picking up something lighter. So I mean, you've just got that bit of extension to your hand, so you've got that the weight that's removed from your body by the length of the club, and then start swinging that. And then once you've established a pattern of using lighter clubs, then sort of go to a club that's got weighs a pound before you go to a 2-pounder.
Mm-hmm.
And just work your way back up again. And I'm sure that would be a sort of good way of recovering from any form of injury.
Okay, alrighty. So basically, it's almost like starting back to square one again for an indeterminate amount of time.
At the end of the day, the moves. I mean, you're going to sort of pick up that fairly quickly.
Yes.
And you're going to have the satisfaction of exercising again. And I mean, if your shoulder hurts, I mean, it's much better if it's going to hurt or something's going to happen. It's better to have a minimum weight there rather than trying something that's too heavy and the shoulder can't deal with it, because you could re-injure and then that's going to be a problem.
Correct. Yes. Agreed.
Get everything built back up so that you can move back to where you were.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think you'll find that you'll recover pretty quickly, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and I think that as soon as I get it back in motion and moving again and whatnot, I think that it will just somewhat rebuild itself, and getting that movement will actually, in turn, if you're doing it correctly and making sure that you're not re-injuring and all that good stuff, and taking your time, pacing yourself easily, you might find yourself recovering quicker because you're actually applying movement to it and you're getting the thing pliable and getting it working and moving again correctly. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Totally agree.
So I think that was everything that we were going to talk to you about this time around. Do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to follow up with, or anything else you wanted to add as we wrap this up there, Paul?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think basically, for everybody, learn the few sort of basic exercises like the outward heart shapes. And I mean, I'd encourage people who have never picked up clubs before to get going with one club and swing. And again, don't go too heavy. I mean, if something feels too heavy, if it's overhead, go to a size that's lighter. And learn with one hand first. Obviously, with the left hand or the right, and it doesn't matter which way around you go. And then start, finding your way into sort of two-arm work, which is by far the most satisfying. But there's nothing wrong with one-arm work, and I would seriously encourage everybody to start with one arm first. And I think the only other thing that I'm just going to add here is that for people who buy new clubs or you buy them off eBay, eBay is harder, but with a new club, I'd almost want to test the club out in the sense that, literally just pick up a club, draw some circles with it on an extended arm, Just have a feel and look at the club to see what it feels like in your hand. If for any reason, because we had clubs made in the sort of early last century that had different knobs on the end of them, different thicknesses of handles and stuff, and you need to find a club that sort of suits you or suits your feel. So once you've got a club like that, then get started 1 arm, 2 arm, and so on.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, I always tell people that start with light clubs, and you'll know when it's time to advance.
Yeah.
It's not something that you force. You will want to, because you're not going to have the same feeling of satisfaction from your workout.
Yeah. You'll sense that something's missing, and that usually is either added length or added weight.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and I'll also add as a final thing to that, the weight is not the be all and end all, because I'm sort of 7-8 years into this now, and I still swing 2-pound clubs on a daily basis.
Yep.
And it's the complexity that starts taking over rather than adding more weight, and I think that's much more important. Because it's a circular type of action, the weight does not need to be very high. And I think that's another misconception that's sort of been around for a while, because we've seen, I know that Kehoe and people like that did sort of 5-10-pound clubs and stuff, but their exercises in those books are much more static. They're not sort of free-flowing. And I think my style of club swinging is much more into the sort of free-flowing style, and I'd encourage people to sort of go with that style, because it's very satisfying to do.
I find myself being most satisfied when swinging a club 5 pounds or under. Usually somewhere between the 2 and 3 pound range, I'm most satisfied.
Right. Okay. No, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay, Paul. We're gonna wrap this up. We're up to 2 hours here.
Yeah.
I would
like
to take a moment to really say thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Just like Paul Imada and a lot of the other guests, I learn something every time somebody comes on here.
Yeah, every time.
And we really need to do more of this. And I hope you'll come back here in the near future. We'd really like to see some of these world tour videos
and
no, well, I'm actually sort of starting to sort of semi-plan it, because I was wanting to come to the States this year, but it just didn't work out. But next year, I'll definitely make a point of coming back to the States, so we'll have to meet up.
Yes.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
We'll have to add Idaho, Washington to the list if that's possible, or we'll just go down to California. That's no big deal for us.
We'll go where we need to go.
We like road trips,
but there's something to be said for Seattle. So.
That's right. Yep, Seattle's nice. But thank you so much, Paul, for joining us. And make sure you guys out there in internet land, make sure you go check out indianclubs.com.au, and you can find all of this great stuff that he is putting together for all of us club enthusiasts.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show.
Certainly.
Just real quick, Paul, you guys are breaking into summer down there, aren't you?
Yeah, we're sort of we're about 28 degrees Celsius here right now, so it's a beautiful sunny day, and I'll be going out later on to grab some lunch and stuff. So because we're Friday morning here.
Yeah, I'm envious. We're expecting snow soon.
Yeah, we are expecting snow soon. That's not looking forward to that at all.
Total contrast.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
Right. Well,
Thank you.
You have a wonderful day, Paul.
Yes, enjoy your lunch, sir.
Okay, cheers.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Paul Walkowinski. Wow,
Mr. Paul Walkowinski.
Yeah, put that into my mind for me. Yeah, Paul Walkowinski, everyone.
The king of clubs.
King of clubs. Yes. I forgot to ask him if I could call him Champ. Damn it.
Well, you can always email him.
Yeah, we'll have to do that next time.
So I guess that's.
Well, see you later. That's a wrap, everyone.
Well, I'm just saying, there's really not a whole lot to add to
not
that.
Really.
I'm humbled.
Why would you?
I'm humbled by the man's knowledge. One thing I've learned about Paul is there's really not a lot you can throw at him that he can't.
That he doesn't
just
have
immediately
yes.
regurgitate the information that you're looking for.
And that's exactly what you want when you're looking for a guru, a king of clubs, whatever you want to call him.
Well, for God's sakes, the man travels the world and swings clubs.
Yeah. For a living.
Jory.
Yeah.
Meals.
It's fantastic. It's great.
What must that be like?
fabulous amongst other great adjectives.
Well, you get to sample the food and
That's right.
other things as
and,
well.
And
so.
meet cool people, probably try out the local food, the local booze,
Absolutely.
all of that good stuff.
Yeah,
Why not?
Feel like one of us going to the South and hearing, y'all aren't from around here, are you?
Yes, we aren't. So make sure you go check out indianclubs.com.au and you can find all of his fantastic work that he's been doing, collecting information, collecting videos, making videos, shooting videos. I'm very impressed with the man because he can do, it seems to me that he can do everything that I can do on the computer. He can make his own clubs. He can swing his clubs like a Jedi Master. Like, the dude is the man.
Some of that
It's
freestyle
awesome.
he was doing was pretty impressive.
That first video, I can't wait to put that up on Facebook.
That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna have bruises because I'm gonna have to try some of that. The dogs are gonna be running and hiding in corners.
The dog is gonna fear you for the next few weeks. I'm not kidding you. I'm gonna break that video down like game film and study the crap out of that thing.
Could you imagine going to the park and
just doing that crap? And you imagine the crowd you'd have around you that quick by doing that kind of stuff?
The problem is you would get sidetracked and whack yourself, and people would walk away.
Yeah,
kick you.
Walk away, kick some dirt on you, call you a dipshit.
You're lame.
Oh, thank you guys so much. You can find Mike on Twitter at Arcade Clubs. You can find me on Twitter at Nathan L. Betts. You can go and do a myriad of different ways of getting a hold of us. Find us on Stitcher. Find us on YouTube. Find us on Facebook. Do all of those things to, find us. Find what we're doing. I'm trying to do two things at once, and it's not working out very well for me. But do all of those things. And you're going to find that you're going to get a lot of knowledge all crammed into, a little tiny little space right on your computer, right on your phone. There's lots of ways to get a hold of us. You can get a hold of us at on Gmail. I think it's rkfitnesshour@gmail.com if you want to interlude something with us, you want to do something or other.
We have those of you who do go there, you've probably noticed that our website isn't there anymore. We are rebuilding.
We're revamping.
We're adding products. We are hopefully everything works out well, have a one-stop shop for your health needs.
And that's your teaser for now. So just in case we don't...
Not going to delve in any deeper than that.
Well, just in case, things tend to rear their fun little heads at us. So
like they tend to do regularly.
So just in case, that is our fun little possibility.
Just a heads up, as things progress, we will alert you.
Yeah, so possibly, sometime around next year or so, we'll probably start calling that a very good possibility. So I'm trying to play the damn intro, the outro here.
So you just keep talking.
Yeah.
So from the midnight version of the RK Fitness Hour.
That's right. Yeah, keep on talking for me. The outro won't start for me.
Well,
It's going to be a rough exit here. It's going to be a little bit of a rough landing here, folks. But
what are you doing?
I'm trying to play this damn thing. Goodness. There it goes. Okay. So thank you guys for listening. Check out timespentpoorly.com. Indianclubs.com.au will take you right to Paul Walkowinski and
the source.
The source. The one of two sources that we completely put all of our trust and faith in, one of the two Pauls.
So far, there's a few other sources floating out there too, and we're going to try to bring them to you as well in the future.
We've got others, but those are the two that we've gotten to so far. And thank you guys for listening to us jabber our jaws for a while, and we can't wait to talk a little bit more with you from now until the next time we get a chance to talk to you guys. Be good to you and yours. I'm on out the door. Mike?
4 out of 5 voices in my head say go for it.
All right, let's do it.